Next speaker is Priya. The topic she's going to cover is on coronary CT and when to use, because there is a lot of emerging indication of coronary CT, and I'll talk with Jagat Narula. He says the future is only coronary CT, and we have a lot of people sitting from the cath. Let's see what she has to say.
Good morning, chairpersons, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm thankful to Dr. Chopra for giving me the opportunity to talk on this topic. So I'm going to talk about when to use coronary CT angiography. When a patient with ischemic heart disease comes to you, the goal of imaging is not only to have a look at the coronary arteries, but also to have a look at the sequelae and also to come to a diagnosis which will lead to the management. So when the imaging is done, we look not only at the lumen. In the lumen, we look at the presence or absence of stenosis. Where is the stenosis located? How much is the percentage stenosis? Whether there is a distal runoff or not, the patient is amenable to PCI or not. Besides this, one must always remember 80% of the acute coronary syndromes are because of the plaque rupture, which may not be because of any significant stenosis. So plaque imaging is now of great interest to researchers, and it can be done on CT angiography, where the catheter angiography is very much limited. Calcium scoring can be again done for the plaque evaluation. Besides this, coronary CT angiography and the catheter angiography also tell you about the ventricular function, any mechanical complication which have resulted as a result of the ischemic insult. Myocardial perfusion and viability can be done on CT and MR to see whether the myocardium is dead or can be revascularized, can be revived after the revascularization of the coronary artery. For the evaluation of coronary artery, there are only two imaging modalities which are currently available because of their higher spatial resolution, and that is the catheter angiography and CT angiography. Though MR imaging, nuclear medicine and echo can be done for evaluation of myocardium in these patients, but for the coronary artery evaluation, because of the high spatial resolution, the coronary arteries are very small arteries, only catheter angiography and CT angiography are currently used. Catheter angiography, because of its very high spatial and temporal resolution, is still the gold standard. There are definite advantages. You can see under the stents, you can see under the clips, calcium, but it's an invasive procedure, has a finite morbidity. And one must remember that 1/3 of the patients who are undergoing invasive catheter angiography turn out to be normal, and only 50% subsequently undergo a PCI or CABG. Also, it involves a lot of contrast. You are injecting contrast in each and every artery for each and every injection, a lot of radiation. And besides this, like I told before, it is blind to the wall. You only see the opacified lumen, you are not seeing the wall at all. So the plaque imaging is not possible in these patients. Also, there are problems arising because of the cannulation, specifically in the left main, where a spasm can occur, and then you are not sure whether it is an osteal lesion or a spasm. Coronary CT angiography scores here majorly because of its property of non-invasiveness. It is easily available. The examination time is very short. With the available multi-slice CTs, it is 7 to 9 seconds only, a single breath hold. It has got a high spatial resolution. It allows you a 3D imaging with a single breath hold. You can rotate your images at will, and all this is all possible because of the advent of the multi-slice CT. Again, these were the advantages which I discussed. Again, however, there are issues of radiation and contrast here. And again, if the patient is having arrhythmia, lot of calcification, then there may be problem. Motion artifact, if the patient is not holding breath or there is too much of cardiac motion, then also there may be motion artifacts. Radiation till now has been a major issue for doing coronary CT angiography. However, with the advent of newer multi-slice CTs, the radiation amount has come down to a very low level. As far as its accuracy is concerned, the accuracy is very high. With the advent of the multi-slice CTs, your sensitivity and specificity has gone up to as high as 95 to 99%. And most importantly, the negative predictive value is 98 to 99%. What this means is that if the coronary CT angio says the patient does not have a significant coronary artery disease, in 98 to 99% of your patients, the patient will actually not have the significant coronary artery disease. So the negative predictive value is very high. So it's a good modality to rule out a significant stenosis. However, it does have its limitations. If the patient's heart rate is very high, more than 100, or it is irregular, or there is arrhythmia, in these patients there may be too many artifacts and visualization of artery will not be good. If there is a high calcium score, like in this patient, you see there is a lot of calcium in the proximal RCA, so the underlying vessel will not be well seen. If the stents are there in the distal arteries which are less than 2 mm or 2.5 mm in diameter, then also there may be a problem in visualizing the underlying vessels. Renal dysfunction is again a problem because we are using ionic contrast. Small vessels need to be seen, and hence multi-slide CT, a minimum of 64 slide CT is required to have a reasonably good coronary CT angiography. So when to use coronary CT angiography and when to use a catheter angiogram. So we'll discuss about it. There are these criteria which were laid down in 2010 about the appropriate use of the coronary CT angiography, and these were reiterated in this 2015 paper. So it talks about when to do a coronary CT angiography. So there is a patient who has come to you who is symptomatic, has no known heart disease. So how do you go about it? If the ECG is normal and the cardiac biomarkers are normal or the ECG is uninterpretable, then if the patient has a low and intermediate risk, that is, the patient does not have any risk factors, the risk factors being patient who is smoking, strong family history of ischemic heart disease, male more than 45 years of age. So all these risk factors, or any other nicotine use, all these are the risk factors. So if there are no risk factors, there is low and intermediate probability, your ECG is normal or non-interpretable, the troponins are negative, then it makes sense to go for a coronary CT angiography in a symptomatic patient. In a patient who has again acute symptoms, and you think the patient has got definite MI, it is inappropriate to do a coronary CT angiogram. And this is the patient who should go for a catheter angiography. So in a symptomatic patient without known heart disease, it's appropriate to perform coronary CT angiography if there is low or intermediate probability. If there is a risk of definite MI, this is not the patient, he is inappropriate for coronary CT angiogram and goes for a catheter angiography. Then there is a group of patients, these are asymptomatic patients without known CAD, the general population. Should we be doing a screening CT in these patients? No. Non-contrast CT for coronary calcium may be done if the patient is at intermediate risk. There are some risk factors which the clinician thinks make him appropriate as intermediate risk patient. In these patients, or in the patient who has got a family history of premature CHD, in these patients a coronary calcium score only can be done for screening. Preoperatively, again, if the patient is at intermediate risk and the patient is going for a non-cardiac surgery or a non-coronary cardiac surgery, he can undergo a coronary CT angiography. So it is not appropriate to perform a coronary CT angiography for a general population where there are no symptoms, low CAD risk or moderate CAD risk. In symptomatic patients where there is high probability of CAD, when the patient is having acute chest pain, which is typical, which is showing ST elevation, and when there is high probability. So in the second group of patients, these are the patients who directly go for a catheter angiogram instead. Another use of coronary CT angiography is in the plaque visualization. Like I said before, the catheter angiogram shows you only the opacified lumen, whereas the coronary CT angiography will show you not only the opacified lumen but also the surrounding plaque in the wall, the surrounding structures also. The non-stenotic plaques I have already talked about cause 80% of the fatal MIs. So it's important to identify the vulnerable plaques which form the major bulk of the plaque loads. And these are the plaques which have got high lipid core. They have spotty calcification or they may be ulceration, and they may have a positive remodeling in them. Positive remodeling means there is a dilatation in the region of the plaque. There's a dilatation in the region of the plaque, and the artery appears to be dilated in the region of the plaque. So these are the patients who are labeled as vulnerable plaques, and they are likely to have more than 95% risk of plaque if there is a positive remodeling, soft plaque core, or a spotty calcification. And the risk comes down to 0 if none of these features are present in the plaque. Coronary calcification will be alluded to by Dr. Mittal, so I won't be discussing too much in detail, but yes, a 0 score can virtually exclude an obstructive coronary artery disease. Mind it, the patient will still have plaques, but obstructive coronary artery disease is very less likely. In a patient who has got a heart failure of unknown etiology, if you find coronary artery calcification, there is 99% sensitivity of having a ischemic cardiomyopathy. In a patient with a score of 0, one must remember the frequency of non-calcified plaques may still be there. However, the obstructive plaques are 0. For the evaluation of congenital anomalies of coronary artery, CT angiography is the investigation of choice, because of the fact that it not only opacifies the coronary arteries but also the surrounding structures, which is a major plus point of the coronary CT angiography. Hence, you can see the anomalous region. So you can see this is a right coronary artery which is arising very medially. It is still arising from the right coronary sinus, but arising very medially, and it had systolic narrowing, and there was an interarterial course between the aorta and the pulmonary artery. The other, not only the region, you can also see the course of the artery because you are seeing the underlying structures. So this is an anomalous circumflex which is arising from the RCA and is coursing anterior to the aorta. Also, you can look at the termination anomaly. This is a coronary cameral fistula which can be well visualized. So you can see the chamber which is being opacified and the coronary artery also. So it is appropriate to perform coronary CT angiography in patients who are suspected to have coronary artery anomalies and thoracic AV vessels, for seeing the thoracic AV vessels. Another area where coronary CT angiography helps in patients who have had a catheter angiogram and when there is a suspicion of a left main stenosis versus spasm. So there are two cases. In both you can see there is a stenosis of the left main artery. The angio is not working. So both of them have stenosis. There is no opacification there is no reflux of contrast in the aorta, and there is a stenosis in the left main artery. So the cardiologist was not sure whether it is a spasm or a significant stenosis. The patient is sent for the CT angiography, and you can see in this patient this was a plaque, a soft plaque at the left main. There was a significant left main stenosis. Whereas in second patient it was a case of a left main spasm because of the catheterization, and the dilemma was solved after the coronary CT angiography was done. Coronary CT angiography can also help for guiding the chronic total occlusions. When you do a catheter angiography, you see the RCA, for example, this RCA is occluded. Probably this will be filling via a left injection or some other collateral. But on the CT, because all the collaterals are opacified at the same time, so you can see the exact point where it is occluding and where it is reforming. And then you can find out, yes, this is the artery which can be recanalized using PCI. For the evaluation of in-stent restenosis, like I said before, the accuracy is quite good with the sensitivity and specificity in the range of 90%. However, when the stent is 2 millimeter or smaller in size, the peripheral stents, then it may be difficult sometimes to see the underlying vessels. So if the CT is being done only for a distal stent, you can tell your cardiologist you may not be able to see the stent. So for the proximal stents, for the larger stents, it is a good evaluation modality for evaluating the stents. For the evaluation of patients who have had a CABG and who are now presenting with a chest pain or for follow-up, CT angiography is the investigation of choice, because if you go for a catheter angiogram, you have to search for each and every graft, ostia, and you have to hook each and every ostium and then do the angiography. So the CT angiography can show you all the grafts, their relation to the underlying chambers and the stenosis very well with a very high sensitivity and specificity. So this is again the investigation of choice for patients who have had a CABG. In patients who have a new onset heart failure, these are the patients who have no history of coronary of having a coronary heart disease before. In these patients, to find out the etiology, it is appropriate to perform coronary CT angiography along with cardiac MRI to see whether what is the etiology of the heart failure. And it is the investigation of choice to non-invasively assess the CAT. So again, it is appropriate to perform coronary CT angiography in reduced LV ejection fraction patients who have got a low or intermediate pre-test probability of the coronary artery disease. Cardiac function, like Mona showed you, just like the MRI images, it is possible with the gated CT angiography to have the short axis, the vertical long axis and the four chamber views, and to look for the regional wall mission abnormalities, which are the sequelae to the ischemic heart disease. Similar to MRI, stress perfusion and viability imaging can be done on CT also, and this adds to the it adds incremental value to the detection of the coronary artery disease. So it increases the sensitivity and specificity of the study once you do a perfusion analysis. Let's see this case. There is a lot of calcification in the LAD, in the RCA and the circumflex, and the vessels underneath were not very well evaluable. Once a perfusion study was added to it, we could see that in the circumflex territory there was a perfusion defect which went away on the rest scans. And the same is corroborated on the catheter angiography, and we can see that there was a circumflex occlusion, and this was seen as a perfusion defect in the circumflex territory on the lateral wall. It is also now possible to perform FFR with the CT. Now FFR is being done to see a stenosis which is intermediate, where you are not sure how much significance, how much hemodynamically significant it is. So FFR values obtained with CT, there is a special software with which you can obtain the FFR. It's quite an expensive software, it's currently not available in India, but it is something which can be done with the CT. You don't give any new radiation, contrast, cost. Nothing is required, not even adenosine is required, unlike the catheter FFR. So with these, the values are very good, the sensitivity and specificity is good, the accuracy is around 85%, and it is also possible to have virtual stenting using the software and see how the FFR will change after the patient will have the stent. So that also is possible with the CT. So I would like to just summarize in the end that catheter angiography still remains the mainstay of the diagnosis because of its very high temporal and spatial resolution, which till now has not been matched by either CT or MRI. It has an ability to look beneath the calcium clip and the stent, gives you a very high accurate measurement of the high-grade stenosis. It is still considered to be the gold standard against which the coronary CT angiography is measured, and it is not dependent on heart rate, rhythm and respiration. Also, the cardiologists are much more familiar with it. However, because of its invasive nature, because of its finite morbidity, CT coronary angiography can be done in certain patients, and these are the patients who have a possible congenital anomalies of origin and cause. If the patient has had symptoms after he has had a CABG, so for the post-operative follow-up after CABG, if the patient has got an atypical chest pain, the cardiologist is not sure whether it is a cardiac origin pain or not. For the preoperative assessment of patients who are undergoing non-cardiac surgery and non-coronary cardiac surgery, also in patients who are having chest pain with low risk category, low and intermediate risk category. You may still do coronary CT angiography in patients who have stable angina with low to intermediate risk, especially those who are unable to exercise. However, CT angiography should not still be done in patients who are asymptomatic just for the purpose of screening. In patients who have got acute coronary syndrome, because these are the patients who go for a catheter angiogram directly. Also in symptomatic patients and high risk category patients. So these are also the patients who should ideally be sent for a catheter angiography. So I would like to end by saying that CT is fast emerging as a one-stop shop for coronary imaging and probably will replace the coronary angiography as the spatial resolution and the temporal resolution improves further. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Priya. I think for your most lucid presentation, we'll request you to kindly join us here and we'll have the discussion at the end.